And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a Bookish Moment. I am your solo host for the day, Sarah Burr. My dear friend and co-host J.C. Kenney is away at work and wishes everybody well for what is sure to be a wonderfully cheerful and festive conversation with our very good friend Christina Romeril, who is here celebrating the release of her new holiday cozy mystery, Deck the Halls with Homicide, which has got to be the way that I love celebrating the holidays. I don't know about you guys, but I listen to a lot of true crime that is holiday themed during this time of year. So this book was right up my alley. I can't wait to talk more with Chris about it. But before we launch into our conversation, Christina, I just want to welcome you back to the show. It is delightful to see you.
Thank you. I am so thrilled to be here. I love visiting with you. So this is fun.
Yeah, and it's the perfect time of year for you to stop by, because with twins Alex and Hannah, we have gotten 3 delightful Christmas adventures over the past few years, and it's just like it's the perfect time of year to talk about holidays and sweet chocolates, yummy goodies, some Christmas decorations, and of course how a contest may or may not turn a little bit deadly. But before we start diving into the nitty gritty, I want to shout out to our folks that are joining us in the chat. We have 3 artists saying hello from St. Louis. We have Cara Lacey saying hi. We have Regina, the Southernista, saying hi, Sarah and Christina. Your book is next on my to-be-read list. That is fabulous, Regina. You are going to have it's going to put you right in the holiday spirit, and you're going to love it. I definitely feel that. And we have DHB saying good afternoon. So folks, as you all get settled in, and make sure if you do have any questions for us during the broadcast, you can pop them right into the chat. And Farmhouse Reader chimes in with a hi all. As folks are getting settled in, Christina, any chance you can kind of take us a little bit on an overview? You have joined us here at the show before, but for folks who may have missed your episode, tell us a little bit about your life prior to writing cozy mysteries, and maybe what brought you into writing them in general.
So I've had an eclectic career. I have done everything from working for a life insurance company to the beauty counter at Sears to the most recent job I had before doing this was being working at a bank as a commercial banker.
Mm-hmm.
And so not the most exciting of careers. And I wanted to put a little bit of excitement into my life. And it was something that I'd been wanting to do forever. It was as a teen originally that I first thought I'd like to write. Anyway, and so I started dabbling, and I say dabbling because I didn't do any serious writing. I took a course at the local college in creative writing, and I put pen to paper here and there, but I really didn't do anything serious until the pandemic. I had done like what did I call it? I called it my weekend writing boot camp a year or so before that, where I had sat down with an idea, and I think I got about 30 pages in, and then realized there were some issues with where I was going, and I put it aside. And then a year later, when the pandemic came about, I thought that I didn't have any excuse not to write. So I sat down and worked through everything, and I wrote what became A Christmas Candy Killing.
Oh,
So
wow. So A Christmas Candy Killing was your first cozy that you
my
did.
first anything.
That's amazing. And honestly, from the conversations that we've had with folks on the show, that's very rare in the writing world. Like, there are people that are like, I wrote something, but shoved in the bottom of my desk, and I've never looked back. And that is very true for me as well. So the fact that you took this project and went from 30 pages and feeling like, okay, like this isn't fixable, to continuing on and giving us this wonderful world and bringing Alex to life, that's really, really incredible. And I love your comment about the kind of realizing, and because I felt the very same thing. I used to work in a call center way back in the day, and that's not, I don't think, a job that everybody wants to be when they grow up. It's a job that you go to because it's a stable job and it pays the bills, and it gives you a place to live and feeds you. So finding your passion and going after it and being able to carve out time to have those hobbies that do bring you joy. I think that that's just so important for having just an enjoyable life in general. So I find inspiration in those types of stories, because there are so many folks out there that, they have a job that they are, they're content with. Maybe it's not their passion, but you can do other things outside of it that bring you joy. So I'm very happy that you found what spoke to you, and that murder mysteries were your calling. I'm curious, when you were crafting A Christmas Candy Killing, did you have the plan of it being a series, or was it just something that like you wanted to experiment with one book, and then it became something more as you began looking into the publishing world and figuring out where you wanted to query and all of that good stuff?
I knew from the outset cozy mysteries were usually series, so I
Mm-hmm.
knew that if in fact it got published, that it would likely become a series, and so that was definitely in my mind. When I originally wrote it, it did not have the poison chocolate theme. So it was a bookstore
Oh.
setting,
Mm-hmm.
but it was actually our agent, Don Dowdle, who
Mm-hmm.
said, you don't have enough of a hook. You need to figure something out, something more out that's a better hook for the story. And I went through a
Wow.
few things, everything from family history to I can't remember what all of my ideas were. And then I finally, I don't know how I even came to it, but it just suddenly it came to me, this idea of chocolates, and then refining that to poison themed chocolates being sold in the mystery bookstore. And so that is, yeah, that's where that came from. And then originally it was also not twins. It was it was Alex, the protagonist, with a
Mm-hmm.
best friend. And it was my editor at Crooked Lane who said, I would like you to do twins. And so I
Oh,
said, okay.
wow.
And did a
That's
rewrite, and yeah.
I So I know that we've chatted a lot about this series, and it's either my horrible memory at fault, or I don't remember it not having the killer chocolate aspect, and the fact that like it's called the Killer Chocolate Mysteries, to see
Yeah.
like how a idea grows throughout the process. It's so strange. And when you look back at a manuscript that you've written and you see like, okay, here was the first draft and this is where we ended, all of the things that get added during the publishing process, it's wild to see how everything develops. And now it's like, I can't picture these characters. Number one, I can't picture Hannah and Alex not being sisters. But the fact that like the chocolate is such like a central part of their standing in the community. So that's just amazing. So
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that that you found your hook. And I got to pause to go to the chat real quick, because we've got a lot of people coming up with stuff going on. We have David Plank saying hi from Hampton, New Hampshire. We have 3 artists saying, I loved A Christmas Candy Killing, and is so glad that you're adding to your series and can't wait to get the audio version of all your books and listen to them. I was actually listening to book 3 today on audiobook, and Rebecca, your narrator, she does a lovely job. Like she has like such that she just sounds like an adult Nancy Drew. And so I was like, oh, she's such a good narrator. And we have Kara saying poison chocolates is such a fun idea. We have 3 artists saying the chocolate theme really appealed to me because I am a chocolatier. And if you ever need custom chocolates, to let them know for any of the promotions that you do, Christina.
All right.
And so then we have Regina with a question saying, how do you come up with the names of the chocolates? And that is a really good one, because there are so many that I'm like, this is the like most clever name that I've ever heard of. So how do you come up with the names of your chocolates that are sold at Murder and Mayhem?
I always start with the poison. So
Mm-hmm.
I look at the poison, and then I look at what, because I like alliteration. A lot of them are
Mm-hmm.
alliterations. And so then I just see what goes with it. So nicotine nut or nicotine Noel, and or so a festive name. And I brainstorm. And so I
Mm-hmm.
just put tons of different ideas down, and those usually then get refined and improved on. And I eventually end up with whatever it is that gets it put into the book. So yeah, it's just and that's what I do for a lot of things. I just brainstorm. So you
Mm-hmm.
just throw whatever you can at the page, and nothing's a bad idea. And then from that, then you refine and work on what you think are your top few ideas. And
Do
so.
you have a top? Do you have like, your top three names that you think they're like, man, those were really good for naming conventions?
So, like, I let me understand. So, do you like what do
For
I
for your
do for?
poison chocolates, because there was one. It
Yeah,
was like the what was the one?
strychnine strawberry.
That one. Yes, yes, yes.
That that is so. There are some that just people just love. So, strychnine
Mm,
strawberry is one of them. I love a few of them. So, morphine mint is one of my
ooh,
favorite names. Um, hemlock hazelnut.
yes. I was like,
Uh,
there's the hemlock. There was a hemlock one that I remember really liking, but I
yeah.
also love like hemlock, and I wonder like um, how do you when you say like you take all of your poison list. Where does your
Mhm.
poison list come from? How are you getting like all of your information regarding the poisons that are not only named in the series but also used in the series as murder weapons?
So initially, I went with a lot of the Agatha Christie poisons, the ones
Mm-hmm.
that she used in her books. I have since, been willing to expand, so they don't necessarily have to come from her books, but they need to have names that work to some degree. So I have come up with some like gelsamine, or I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, gelsamine, gingerbread. So, so I have a book. Deadly poisons that I use for a lot of my research,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just go through there and I look for names that go well with another word that's either festive or alliterative. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're getting. I mean, I'm a big a watcher of Dateline, and it seems like there's been an uptick in new, not necessarily new poisons, but just like new ways or I guess medications that are causing people to be poisoned. There was one, oh gosh, I literally just listened to it like last week, but it was a gout medication that
Mhm.
apparently, if you don't have gout and you take this, it's terrible for you. And so there's just like so many ways, like the list just seems endless. So I wonder, how do you, uh, when kind of creating let's talk maybe about in book one when we have uh, our scenario where our murder victim is poisoned. How do you narrow down which poison you're going to use? Do you just like kind of say like this is the poison that I want to use and I'm going to make it work, or do you take the scene and work from the scene and say okay, like these are the poisons that fit this potential scenario?
Yes, I tend to go with like if I mean I look at this how I'm using it in the scene, because certain poisons require more time to like
Mm-hmm.
they are not immediately active. Certain ones have different symptoms that may or may not work for that scene. So I really look at how it's going to work for the murder,
Mm-hmm.
because like some poisons just won't work in a certain scenario. And so yeah, I very much look at the individual poisons. Sometimes for fun I go through the poisons and I just see, well, how how quick does this one work, and what are the
Mm-hmm.
symptoms, and is there something that can prevent it from killing you? Like some poisons have a window. If you have
Yes.
an anti, then you have a window, and others not so much, or the window is so brief that you from unless you're like literally in an emergency room, you're pretty much hooped once you
Mm.
ingest it. So yeah, so I look at all those different things, and so I sometimes that's where I spend a lot of time is doing that is doing and I ask questions. I have a friend who's a nurse. I have friends that are pharmacists. I met someone who's a forensic toxicologist, or used to be, he's retired
Oh.
now,
Hmm.
for the toxicology lab in Ottawa. And
Oh,
so, yeah,
wow.
so I mean, I ask people questions wherever I am. I was in the emergency room once and I started asking a nurse questions, and she was very helpful. So
Do they ask, they're like, what are you asking me all these questions for?
I always explain that I am a mystery writer. And
Nice.
so,
Okay, good, good. They're not just
yes,
like giving
yes.
this information's like, am I an accessory in a crime? No, I
No.
I totally I when I was researching for Fatal Sign Off, which is the third book in the Book Blogger Mysteries, I needed it to be a poison, and I was amazed by how hard it honestly can be to kill somebody with poison these days, because you either need a huge amount of the toxin in your bloodstream, or it's like if you have been poisoned, there's that window of time, and this is a relief to learn in the real life. That's like, okay, like most poisons, if you ingest something, like it's not going to be fatal as long as you get to the hospital within like 72 hours.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of things that are toxic, but they're not fast acting. So that was like a relief from like, oh, okay, like, phew, like as a human. But as a writer, it's like, I need something that like kills somebody right now, like within 5 minutes. That's hard to find. We have Regina asking a question, because of the names of your chocolates, do you have trouble finding taste testers for when you're baking?
No, in fact, when I was doing the recipe for, I think it was book two, it was a truffle. And I was struggling to get the recipe to work quite the way I wanted it to. It was too
Hmm.
soft. And so our neighbors were more than happy to take my failed attempts.
Oh
So yeah,
gosh,
yeah, the
that would
neighborhood
be.
was more than happy.
Now, are you someone that before you started writing, were you big into baking and like chocolate making, or was it something that like you had to learn from scratch on your end in order
Yeah.
to make these recipes?
Oh, yeah. When I started this, it never occurred to me when I started writing this series and I was doing chocolate research that I would ever have to make a chocolate, because I
Mm-hmm.
had friends and, in fact, my husband's family, who have for years, decades, made chocolates. And I knew the process is quite onerous. And so I had zero intention of ever making a chocolate. And I mean, baking's fine, but chocolates were not something I was going to get into. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I got the contract with Crooked Lane to write the first book, or to publish it, they said, and of course you'll include recipes at the back of the book. And I
Oh.
said, of course I will. And then was scrambling to learn how to actually make chocolates, to take all the
Mm-hmm.
theoretical knowledge that I had and transfer it into actual recipes that I created from scratch and made. And so yeah, it was just one of those things where needs must, and so I did
That
it.
And like thinking about that, that is incredible that you not I mean, not only did you write a book, a murder mystery that has all these twists and turns and keeps people guessing, but then it's like you had to go above and beyond and actually learn the skills of your protagonist, and that's a really heavy load to ask, in especially like in this day and age where it just feels like we're stretched so thin with everything that life is asking of us, that for authors who do include those recipes, and you're not the first person to share this with us, where it's like, oh man, like now I have to learn how to do this, and like that's such an extra thing to do, that is a labor of love that I don't know if necessarily like the greater public is aware of, that you've taken on that much. So thank you for doing that, and for being willing to learn and to share, because that's a big deal to like go and learn a completely new craft.
It is. And chocolate making, especially the ones that they make in the Murder and Mayhem book and chocolate shop,
Hmm.
are molded chocolates. And so it is a bit of a finicky process. And so, and I
Yeah.
do try and make that clear. And that's why I did include a truffle recipe in the second book, so that, it's something that's a little simpler, because it is a bit of a commitment in your materials and your
Hmm.
technique and everything. So, but I mean, I love a challenge. And so for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this and figure it out. And so, Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so,
I mean, I was once asked to like come up with something that I think it was for my Coco Klein books where it was like, oh, like, can you make something that Coco would feature? And I'm like, I specifically say that Coco does not do any type of food blogging because she's terrible at it. And it's like, I don't know how to do that. And I don't have time to do that. And I think I ended up just making like a drink recipe. Which that was fun sampling because it's like, you know, how much should we be putting in here and figuring out all those measurements. So it was a little bit of a tipsy afternoon, but it was all in the sake of research. We have Jackie in the chat saying, Chris, I'm excited about your new book and happy birthday. And Farmhouse Reader, in regards to you learning about chocolate making, saying that's commitment. That's so great. So, I'm just blown away by that. And I'm looking at the time. I want to we haven't even dived into book 3 yet. So, but before we begin our conversation, I do want to let folks in the chat know that Christina is generously giving away a digital copy of her new book, Deck the Halls with Homicide. It is so much fun. Look at that gorgeous cover. I love that cover. It just like sings Christmas for me. And so if you would like to be entered in for a chance to win a digital copy, I'm going to ask that instead of putting the magic word into the chat, that you're going to email me at giveaways@itsbookishtime.com. I'm going to actually flip our screen so you can see the email there. It's giveaways with an S and then at itsbookishtime.com. You're going to just put in the subject line the word contest and send your email. You don't have to put anything in the body of it. I mean, if you want to say hi to me, you can, but just go ahead and shoot an email over our way. And as by segue, Chris, let's talk about why contest is kind of a double-edged sword in today's magic world landscape, because not only are our readers entering in for a contest to win a copy of your book, but there is a contest in this cozy that goes really off the rails in a really bad way. So any chance you can kind of set the scene for us about what Alex and Hannah get up to in this latest installment?
yes, absolutely. So with book 3, Deck the Halls is literally about the contest in Harriston, where the idea actually initially came from Hannah to have a decorating contest because she thought it would be a fun and opportunity for everybody to put some decorations out, because it's so nice to go look at the lights at Christmas. And it was taken over by a woman named Vanessa, who villagers have nicknamed the Dragon, because she is extremely overbearing and has some very strong opinions and kind of runs roughshod over people. She's not very nice. And so she decides to take this on, and she makes it bigger than it was ever meant to be, and more competitive. So this is like an episode of Survivor or Real Housewives. Like this is big. And of course, she wants to be in the contest as well because she wants to win. And so she is, egging the villagers on to go bigger and so that she has some good competition. But of course, she's well off, and so she also has some help. And so she is creating a display that is worthy of national attention. And in fact, it's loosely based on the Nutcracker. And I can say that without it giving away any spoilers. So I happen to be going to see the Nutcracker Ballet this Saturday in Calgary, a live performance. I'm excited because it ties back to the contest in the book. And so that's really what spurs the whole thing. Is this contest is where, of course, the murder happens, and Alex comes across the body. So it's very much over the top. And I mean, this isn't the first time that's been explored, right? There's Deck the Halls, the movie, which I was watching the other night, and is so fun because watching people just go crazy, trying to outdo one another to win a contest where the prize is really nothing, right? I mean, it's the purely the competitiveness of being the winner. So.
Well, I just think about in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, where the Griswold's house, like he is so like, we have to have like the brightest house on the block, and he does. Because people really, they get into this, and I mean, it's the perfect breeding ground for hostilities if you have the wrong personalities that are clashing with each other. So I'm curious, how was this particular mystery always one that you knew that you were going to explore as you were writing the series, or is it something that, like, I finished book 1, I finished book 2, like where do I go from here?
So when I originally did the proposal
Mm-hmm.
for the first book that had to be sent out to publishers before A Christmas Candy Killing was sold, I had to come up with ideas for books 2 and 3. And of course, at that time, I didn't think it was going to be a Christmas series. And so book 3 was set in the spring. And it was actually
Oh.
kind of centered around community cleanup and garage sale or something like that, rubbish. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was centered around that. And so it had the kind of the Vanessa character, but it
Yep.
was a very different story. And so it had to have some reworking when, of course, I realized this was going to be a Christmas series. And so having it set at Christmas, that was something I had to come up with. And the Deck the Halls contest, because I mean, I looked at, what setting is there where you can get people, getting a little, competitive with one
Mm-hmm.
another. And of course, decorating is indeed something we've seen people get a little competitive with in our society. So it just
Yes.
worked.
We have Regina saying, reminds me of the great Christmas light fight. Ooh, that sounds fun. Light fight. Um, so that answer cues up two questions that I have for you, and I realize, looking at our time, that my questions are going to have to be very, very quick. But you had said that when you were originally sending this book out, that you hadn't been prepared, or that you hadn't had it as a Christmas cozy mystery series, and that you had to kind of go back and tweak things. I've always wondered, is it challenging for you to come back to your characters knowing that, okay, a year has passed since we were last with them, and a lot can happen in a year? How do you catch readers up? How do you make your character develop off the page, but make it so much that it doesn't feel like, oh, I don't recognize this person anymore, but also keep it within the bounds of, like, well, they would have changed a little bit from year to year? Was that ever a challenge for you? Because I imagine that it's like, wow, like a year between things happening, a lot of stuff can go down in a little town.
It's true. And so that was definitely a challenge to be overcome with this book, Deck the Halls. It was particularly challenging because I knew that there had to have been some movement in the romantic relationship between
Yes.
Alex
Mm-hmm.
and her new beau. And so how do you, especially with an older couple,
Mm-hmm.
and by older, I don't mean, 40s is old, but, they're not in their 20s. And so
Mm-hmm.
how do you get that to happen over the course of a year and explain away that? And so that's where some of the, and I'm not going to give this away, but some of the plot twists that happen
Mm-hmm.
in there and the subplots, that's where that came in, is like, why aren't they more serious and having had the relationship progress when it would seem that they were headed in that direction? So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it does. I think it makes you work a little harder and in a
Yep.
good way. So.
Excellent. And then a little bit looking into the future of the series, are we always going to stay in Christmas world for Alex and Hannah, or are there new holidays on the horizon for them?
So I have mentioned this in some places before. Book 4 will not be set at Christmas. I have the creative decision making in my wheelhouse now because it
Mm-hmm.
is, as now the third book was self-published, and so I get to choose what I want to do going forward. And so book 4 will actually be set in a non-Christmas setting. It'll still be in Harriston, same characters, but I'm having some real fun with doing it. It's a little challenging though, because I keep wanting to have a contest or something,
Mm-hmm.
to do with building snowmen or,
Mm-hmm.
but it is fun doing this and coming up with new ideas in a non-Christmas setting. So we will be
Yeah.
working back to Christmas because I have a great idea already prepared for the next Christmas book, but there will be a few books in between.
Awesome. And I mean, that's got to be exciting for you as the creator, because and just thinking about when you can get chocolate as a gift, like that's the gift that keeps on giving. So you can do any type of day and have it be chocolate worthy. So I'm sure that like just opens up so many more possibilities for you. And it also helps your characters kind of slow down in their life, so that it's like, okay, we're not losing a year of their lives. Because, Alex, she's now 3 years older than she was at the start. And it's like, well, if you want, if she wants to be out solving mysteries, it's like you gotta, having the ability to play with time now is really, really exciting for you. So I'm thrilled to hear it. I would love to see Harriston at different times of the year and see how folks interact and what other festivals they have, because you can always have a festival too. That's like chocolate. Like there's always occasion for chocolate, and there's always occasion for a festival. And a couple questions as we begin to wind down, because we are at our 30-minute mark. We have 3 out of saying, is it up to you whether your books get recorded on audiobook? And if so, will you continue to make audio versions of your books available?
So with books 1 and 2, that was entirely in the publisher's hands. And of course, we know that they sold the audio rights. And so with book 3, I went to the audio publisher of the first 2 books and said that I was self-publishing this one, and if they wanted to purchase the rights to publish the audio for book 3, and they did.
That's
And so in
amazing.
fact, they asked if I obviously found out that the narrator from book 2 was still available. And so they asked if I was okay with that. And that sped up the whole process by not having to do audition tapes. And so, yeah, so we went with the same narrator from book 2 to book 3. And it's just worked beautifully. It just came out on the 2nd of December. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I was literally listening to it earlier today, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. So that's fabulous. And like, yay for being like in your own like creative power boss. Like that's awesome. I remember when we were first chatting about, this and making that decision of whether or not to independently publish, and the nerves that you were feeling. Do you feel more confident in the indie space now? Like, do you like have you learned the ropes and feel like, yes, I made the decision that was right for me?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very much like chocolate making. I thought that self-publishing
Yeah.
was just just a bar set too high for me
Mm-hmm.
to overcome. But when I realized with the timing, because it had been a year since the second book had come out, I really wanted to have it out this Christmas, and there was absolutely no way to do that with the traditional publisher. And
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate to have you and a couple of other people who had done both the traditional and the self-publishing route. And so I had your experience to draw from and help me. And so I was able to get it all done. I didn't actually make this decision, I think, until April or May, when I
That's
finally
amazing.
decided I was going to do it. And I was
Whew.
able to get the cover done and an editor lined up and everything. So it really was amazing. I learned so much, and yeah, it's increased my confidence significantly. To be fair, I learned so much in traditional publishing, and I think that's why this book,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's seamless, because I learned so much, from my agent, from the publisher, that I was able to do this. And I hope that nobody realizes that going from one book to the next, that it, went from traditional to self-published, because hopefully the quality is as good as it was previously.
I mean, I would never have. Your cover is absolutely stunning. The editing is fat. Like it's just like it's so well done, and I think it also speaks volumes to, if you have the passion and you have the drive, like you can accomplish what you set your mind to. And I think there's so many folks out there that are, they're getting that notice from their publisher. It's like, we're not going to continue on with this series, and they think that that's the end for them. And it's like, it's not the end. It's only the beginning of you grabbing a hold of your destiny destiny and running forward. And Three Artists says it best, you are an inspiration. And I hope that authors that are watching today's episode realize that, Christina is the perfect example of somebody, just rising and charging forward and giving us just an absolutely delightful cozy mystery. That, folks, remember, you still can enter in for a chance to receive a digital copy of Deck the Halls with Homicide. You can email me at giveaways@itsbookishtime.com. In your subject line, just put the word contest. I'm going to flip once more to our giveaways email as we do our quick roundup of what are we reading, listening, watching, consuming, being entertained by. Christina, any recommendations for us here of what to add to our reading and watching lists?
I'm actually reading an advanced copy from Rose Care, RM Care, in her Mia Reed series, and it's coming out very soon. So look for that. I'm having a great time with that book, and I've been watching a few things. Of course, Hallmark Christmas movies. I love Hallmark Christmas movies. I've also been watching Elspeth and the new Matlock with Kathy Bates, and of course Murdoch Mysteries. They had a Christmas episode this year again, so I was thrilled. So
I think I'm
yeah,
a couple more, I'm probably like a season or two behind on the Murdoch Mysteries because it's harder to like figure out like where we in the States can watch them.
yes,
And I'm just
yes.
like, what I would do to like have like CBC streaming abilities because it's like I need to catch up.
Yes.
If you in line with the Murdoch Mysteries, it's my recommendation for the week is it's called Murder Before Evensong, and it's streaming on Acorn TV. It is about a priest who lives in a quiet English town that has this tie to World War II. For like they were called the Scallywags, where it was like the last defenders of freedom that they would hide in these towns so that if there was ever an invasion, that there were people that were stationed there that could protect the villages. But there's a lot of research going on, and somebody is killed inside the church, and the priest teams up with a detective to kind of help him and talk to the villagers. It's so good. And the priest is played by Matthew Lewis, who is Neville Longbottom from the Harry Potter movies. I love it so much. There are two little dachshunds in it that are always running around. It's so wonderful. So that's my recommendation. And oh, good, Regina also likes it. So somebody is vouching for me. We also have really quick, Christina, 3 out of saying I'm looking forward to many more cozy mysteries from you. And it sounds like you've got a lot of ideas brewing for the future. If folks want to stay connected to you, where is the best place to follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff?
There is my website, ChristinaRomeril.com, but I am very active on Instagram and Facebook. Both are Christina Romeril Writer. And always happy to interact with people on any of those platforms. So.
Perfect.
And I just want to take 1 second. If you're a writer and you're looking for a good podcast to listen to that is so incredibly helpful, The Shit No One Tells You About Writing. It is hosted by Bianca Murray and literary agents Carly Waters and Cece Lira. So you really need to listen to that if you are a writer.
Excellent. That we love recommendations. And really quickly, do you have any events maybe happening later this week that you want to give a shout out to?
I absolutely do. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Sarah and I will be doing a live Instagram broadcast on Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. It is in conjunction with the Cozy Mystery Book Club's 12 Days of Christmas. Thank you very much, Angela Hart, for inviting us to do this. And we will be doing a festive, fun evening. So join us on Instagram on Friday.
Perfect. So yes, we'll continue our holiday conversation fun. I will probably be a little bit more goofy and less podcaster mode. So if folks want to come and hang out with us, we have games and trivia and fun bookish things to chat about. But Christina, this has been absolutely delightful. We have Kara saying happy birthday. Is it your actual birthday today?
It is,
Oh my
yes,
gosh. Well, happy
yes.
birthday. I was like, oh, they're saying like happy book birthday, but no, happy birthday. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your birthday with us here. I
Thank
hope that
you.
you have a wonderful rest of your day, your celebrations. We very much appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your time with us. Our audience members, thank you for joining and thank you for staying with us a little bit over time. We just had too much to talk about today. And don't forget to enter in the giveaway. If you're watching after the fact, we are running this so that folks who watch us after we are no longer live can still enter into the giveaways. So we'll be closing it out at 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So you have a full 24 hours to get your contest email over to me. And we have another show coming on Thursday at 4 p.m. So we're going to be a little bit before, we're going to be at 4 o'clock rather than 4:30. We're going to be chatting with Annie McEwen about her new Christmas cozy mystery, You'll Regret It. Another great play on words. So we have more holiday fun coming your way here at A Bookish Moment. But until then, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day and stay bookish. Bye, folks.